Menai Bridge is a small town and community on the Isle of Anglesey in North Wales. It overlooks the Menai Strait and lies by the Menai Suspension Bridge, built in 1826 by Thomas Telford, just over the water from Bangor. With a population of 3,376, it is the fifth largest town on the island. There are many small islands near the town, including Church Island. The Menai Heritage Centre celebrates the world-famous Menai Suspension Bridge, built by Thomas Telford, and the Britannia Bridge, built by Robert Stevenson. History. The town existed as Porth Heathway for centuries and still has a house which dates from the 17th century. The name derives from Porth plus Heathway. It is likely that a community existed here in Roman times, as it is the shortest crossing of the Menai Strait. In the 9th century, St. Tysilio lived here as a hermit on Church Island. A ferry across the Menai was first recorded in 1292. When the bridge opened in 1826, the ferry closed, but connections with the sea remained through the import, export and shipbuilding trades. From 1877 to 1920, the ship Hms Clio was docked at Menai Bridge. It was lent to the North Wales Society to teach young men the ways of seafaring. Many local people believed the ship was used for some type of prison, but this was not entirely true. The ship was home to young men who were in need of discipline to keep them from getting into serious trouble. Some were sent to the Clio against the will. The young men on the Clio were not permitted to leave the ship. Some of the corporal punishment administered was cruel. Stories about life on the Clio were commonplace among the residents of Menai Bridge for many years. Some mothers threatened the misbehaving children with being sent to live on the ship. In 1914, Belgian refugees from Mechelen who had settled in the area built a promenade out of gratitude for the town's hospitality. The promenade was built along the Menai Strait from Ynys Tysilio to Carreguer Halen and was completed in 1916. It was rebuilt in 1963. The ceremonial reopening in 1965 was performed by the only surviving refugee, Edward Wilhelms. Most of the refugees lived at 3 houses in Menai Bridge, with 12 housed at the village hall in Llandegfan. Most of the men were killed in marquetry. On the 12th of November 1918, Air Marshal Sir Thomas Elmhurst flew airship SSZ-73 under the Menai Bridge following the armistice at the end of World War I. The most important ship business in the 19th century was that of the Davies family from Treborth. At the eastern edge of the town is Cwm Cadnant Dingle, which is now bypassed by a modern bridge constructed in the 1970s. The Afon Cadnant drains into the Menai Strait at this point, and this small estuary provides a natural haven for small boats crossing from the mainland. This was the location of the landing stage for the bishops of Bangor, who had the residence at Glyngarth on Anglesey but whose cathedral was in Bangor on the mainland. There are a number of small islands in the Menai Strait, some of which are connected to the town by causeways, including Ynys Faelog, Ynys Gaint, Ynys Castell and Ynys Y Big east of the Suspension Bridge and Church Island west of the bridge. The Isle of Anglesey coastal path passes along the waterfront. Menai Bridge has several churches and chapels, including an English and Welsh Presbyterian church and a Catholic church. The town also has a primary school, a Ysgol Y Borth, and a large bilingual comprehensive school, Ysgol David Hughes. Menai Bridge is home to the School of Ocean Sciences, part of Bangor University. The research ship, the Prince Madog, is based at the pier when not at sea. Attractions in Menai Bridge include the 14th-century Church of St. Tysilio, St. George's Pier, a butterfly house, Pili Palace, and the Plas Cadnant Hidden Gardens, a 200-acre estate originally developed as a picturesque garden in the 1800s. The garden had been the site of restoration for 20 years. In December 20 2015. Heavy rains caused flooding which washed away rare plants representing 20 years of work by Anthony Taverner. Taverner received some help to restore the garden, enabling him and his small staff to begin rebuilding and replanting the garden. Taverner hoped to be able to reopen the site to visitors by Easter 2016. TV location. Welsh language production company, Rondo, has converted a disused garage into a fake row of shops in the centre of Menai Bridge as a film set for the soap opera Round a Round, shown on the Welsh language channel S4C. They also filmed the show in schools in the town, Ysgol.With, and around the town itself. Fair. The large car park to the north of the high street is the Fair Field. This is a piece of common land set aside for the holding of an annual fair called Fairborth, a tradition dating back to 1691. It started as a horse fair, and livestock trading was carried out until the 1970s. It was also a hiring fair. It was one of the year's great occasions for the folk of Anglesey and Avon. The fair now features traditional fair rides. It comes to Menai Bridge on the 24th of October every year, unless it falls on a Sunday, in which case it is held on either 23 or the 25th of October. The fair stalls also take over most of the roads and streets in the town, making passage through the town very difficult. A traditional verse goes, May F fair y borth ynndsu caf dyson wedi a crasu achwrw poetho flynd whitehan a geneth lan iw charu. The Porthethway fair is getting near. The cake is out of the oven. In front of the fire is warm beer and a fair made for loving. Glyngarth. Menai Bridge includes the development along Beaumaris Road known as Glyngarth. This was a favoured location for holiday houses for the wealthy from the Manchester and Liverpool areas in the late 19th century, and many large houses of that period remain. This was also where the Bishop of Bangor had his palace. The palace was demolished in the early 1960s and replaced by a block of flats, Glyngarth Court, completed in 1966. Notable people: Jane Helen Rowlands, scholar and missionary. Gallery.